Good morning. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, April 22nd, and I hope life is treating you well. If this is your time here, I am Cindy Thompson, the host of The Creative Connection, a podcast that I began last July to have a place where creativity and connection or belonging can meet and come together. Over the course of the last nearly year, I think it's been about 9 months now, I have interviewed guests. I have interviewed my husband. We've had conversations, my husband and I, about connection and relationships. I have shared bits and pieces of my own story. And today is sort of a twist on that sharing of bits and pieces of my life. If you have been here before, you know that I am a theater person. I'm a storyteller. I like to help others share stories. In fact, I am a coach for artists and performers who are finding themselves not really able to get and find the bits and pieces that they need in order to lean into that as their career in life. And so many things have popped up in my journey of life in the last week that it's very interesting. They are coming together at sort of an apex of a space and place in my life. And perhaps you've experienced these sorts of things occurring in your life. But I thought I would just share some reflections today on what it means to live life fully. And I share in the show notes today that this episode has been inspired by several things that have occurred or happened on my life journey. So the first thing that really prompted today's topic was a story I saw on a group that I have been following since 2020. 2020, I happened upon Reflections of Life, and it was actually Green Renaissance at the time that I happened upon them, but they have now since renamed themselves Reflections of Life. And there was a story they did 4 years ago called Live Life Fully, and it was this woman that was sharing about her own personal journey and transformation and about how we have to find the love of ourselves inside of ourselves and come to terms with we are enough. Quite often, we give up parts of ourselves and our life in order to please others, or because we think we have to do that because that's what we've been told. I myself have experienced that as well, and I share quite a bit about that in my memoir that will be coming out later this year. But what I was struck by in listening to this woman share her story is that it was as she allowed herself to really come to terms with who she is now and to lean into that. And there was a phrase that was offered by a space that I normally do my morning meditations, Aura, this morning. And I've included this as well in the show notes. But on Aura, they offer a phrase to start every day. And today's is by Shannon L. Alder. The only real battle in life is between hanging on and letting go. And that really showed itself in the story that I listened to this morning. And I got to thinking about myself and where I am right now in my life, in the space of my life, in this moment, in the present, right now. I have a relative, the last of my father's cousins, who is critically ill right now and in the hospital. And I have found that as I have been reflecting upon my interactions with this woman who has supported me in many things that I've done in my life, and I was taken back to the season of my life where loss was large. In the space of 3 months, I lost a very dear friend. I lost my mother. I lost my mother-in-law. And in the year to follow that, we began to realize that our fathers, my father-in-law and my father, their memories of life and who they were and are and who everyone around them was fading. And as I've been reflecting upon this, I think about my own life. Where do I fit in my own life? Am I in my own life? Or am I still hanging on to needing to please someone else or doing what I think others would like me to do? I sat with that in reflection this morning. I was put into the space of a series that I watched on Netflix, and I have quoted that. So if you have a Netflix account, I encourage you to go and watch The Man in the High Castle. It will be difficult at times. Know that it will be difficult at many times. But the themes that are prevalent in that dystopic tale, they categorize it as a thriller. There are moments of thriller in it, but I think it's more a reflection on what happens to ourselves when we believe we have to live life the way others do. And if we give up hope for something better, hope for a better day, we will be forever changed and not necessarily in the way that we would like to be changed. So for me, who is a storyteller and finds the meaning and hope for life and for my own journey on this path in others' stories and in watching stories and in listening to stories, that story had a huge impact on me. And what was streamed throughout that was art, different expressions of art. There was dancing, there was drawing, there was making jewelry, there was making arts and crafts, there was Americana arts and crafts, there was painting, there was martial arts, there was the art of living and loving. And a what if, the question, what if? What if life and the world had turned out this way? Where would I be now? Oh, that's such a juicy question. Such a juicy question. So what does it mean for you to live life fully? Going back to that Reflections of Life story, she bakes breads, and she said in the beginning of the interview with Michael, she said, I think I'm the biggest fan of my own bread. I just love it. And then later, while we watch her make this bread, she's dancing and she talks about how she loves to dance. And if life had been different, perhaps she would have been a dancer. That takes me back to my mother. My mother had been a professional actor prior to having me. She had been on that path, that journey. In fact, she was in the Detroit area on what was back then a very popular TV show, the Soupy Sales Show. And she shared with me that she was the lucky person that got to deliver the pie every day, unless there was a guest star, to Soupy and pie him. And I thought, why would you ever give that up? I mean, at the time, I was very into wanting to be a professional actor. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this, but you know what? I didn't know. I didn't know why. I didn't know why, so I never followed through. So what does it mean to live life fully? It means to know our path, or what we believe our path is, and to know our why. To know our why. That took me to a business networking event that I went to on Monday. Now, I had been a member of this group, so I paid the non-member fee to go to this. Why? It's very interesting. It was Thursday of last week that I got the reminder that this was coming up, and should I go? And I looked at my calendar and I said, well, I have no reason not to go. And I have the money to pay for the ticket, so I think I'll go. Oh my goodness. When I walked in, there was a person that I had not seen in a while. She had been on my podcast, Vicki Garrett of the Heart. She's a heart connection coach. And then I turned around and there was this woman that I had never personally met, but she had been introduced to me by another person that I knew. And she was standing right there, and she turned and she looked at me. She said, oh my goodness, you are here. I wondered if you would be here. Remind me who introduced us. We hugged, we chatted for a bit. I have an invitation. I owe you a response, Tracy Warren, to meet you for coffee or tea or something. But that was the second person. And then I continued down the vendor booths and came across someone else that I had not seen in almost a year. And we hugged and we talked. And then I went into the meeting space, and I first was looking at one chair to sit at. And then I went, no, I'm going to sit at this chair right here. And by putting myself at that chair right there, I put myself at a table of women that I knew surface-wise, but got to know better at this event. And I was literally an arm's width away from the person whose group it was that was giving the keynote, and that was Sandra Yancey, someone that my previous business mentor had suggested that I connect to and follow. And then we did small group networking, and in a small group, I was next to someone else that I haven't seen in about a year. And she said, oh, I was just thinking about you the other day. And when I saw you walk into the room, I knew that everything would be okay, because every place that you are, everything is okay. Now, that was something about me that I had no idea that people thought. So many rich things this week on my journey. And that question, what does it mean to live life fully? Another way that you could phrase that is, why do we do what we do? And as I sat with that question this morning, I was reminded of last night's rehearsal. We are in the last week and a half. We open a week from Friday of rehearsal of Noises Off. at a theater that I am a director at here in the greater Seattle area. And the line is delivered by Lloyd Dallas, who is the director of the play within the play. And when one of the actors asks Lloyd why they are doing something, Lloyd's very frustrated response, I don't know. Why does anyone do anything? If you have found yourself wondering why, I don't know. Chances are you have not sat very long in this present moment to reflect upon what it is you're doing, why you are doing it, and what is that meaning for your life, for what you are doing. What is the intention? Not the financial outcome. Although for many of us, financial outcome is a really important thing in order to eat and to have a roof over our house, our heads, and to have heat and to have clothes on our bodies and to be able to be healthy. Those things are important, but that is not, as I have come to learn in my nearly 65 years of life, that money is not the most important thing. In this moment right now, what's coming to me is do what you love and the money will follow. And I have learned what that means. It's not go casually out and just do whatever you want and the money will follow you, because in fact, it will not. But if you've really sat long with the question, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? And is it something I want to do, or is it something someone else has told me I should do, or I feel obligated to do? And do I desire to do it? I know that my family has noticed a shift in the last year. I used to every day, sometimes 7 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, make dinner every day because I believed that I was supposed to do it. I think it was about probably 10 months ago. I went, this is getting to be too much. And I said to my husband, I said, can you do the weekends when you're around? And then my son and my daughter-in-law moved in with us and we asked them to do a day. And then in November, December, January, we brought another son home who was experiencing some things that he needed the support. And so we asked him to do a meal. And then on the weeks that I noticed that those people weren't able to do the meals that they had agreed to, I stopped cooking. I just took care of myself. I would make enough food on the days that I was still cooking that I would have leftovers. And what I have come to learn about my family is they don't necessarily like leftovers. So there was always plenty of food for me to have, should one of them choose not to cook. as I've sat with that for probably the last month and a half, it was about the time I was doing the last show that I directed at a middle school, and it required an awful lot of energy from me. And I could not pick up the pieces for everyone else. And I, on occasion, would have a hissy fit about it. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that, right? It was about then that I went, I am not responsible for anyone else. It is not my responsibility. However, when I am in relationship with someone else, I am responsible for being present, being attentive, being intentional, leaning into what my connection is. And how can we deepen that connection? And am I falling down in my participation in that relationship? But when it comes to fully living life, my life, I am the only one responsible for that. It requires me to be present, which is another way of saying centered, and focused, listening, reflecting, all of these things that I brought up today that sort of awakened me to something in my own life are why I direct plays. I believe that every story that is told has something for everyone. It's interesting, when I first started directing, I did not have that understanding. I thought, oh, yeah, it'd be fun to direct this show, or it would be fun to be in that show, or whatnot. But as I've gotten deeper into storytelling, and that storytelling can be a way to build community, to transform community, to up-level community, and to teach others, I am looking at the shows that I am directing differently. And the first one that crossed my path that had me feeling that way was Mary Poppins. The theme I went for was love, and how do we love another person? How do we love another person? We love another person by loving ourselves. If we know what it is to love ourselves, we are capable of loving another. So important. First step. And the year following my Mary Poppins, I took that idea of love and translated it to family. What is it to be in family? And I directed, oh my goodness, 5 shows in 9 months. That's way too much. But 5 shows in 9 months, all with the idea of family and different kinds of family. And how do we create or pick or choose or build or belong to a family? The next fall, I continued that. And here I am with the show I'm directing now, which is Noises Off, which is a play within a play about a interesting group of actors who are coming from life or at life from different ways. And it took me a bit to figure out what the theme is. But it has to do that with that why. Why do we do the things we do? And what happens if we do them without thought? There's an awful lot of that in this play. What starts out as what we believe is going to be a happy story becomes all jumbled up, and there's things that happen that create non sequiturs and accidents and hurt feelings and injured bodies and people at odds with one another, even people at odds with themselves, struggling with their demons, their shadows, their dark sides. So, hope. What does it mean for you to live your life fully? Are you present enough to ask that question and listen to yourself answer it? Or have you become so used to tuning yourself out and listening to the world around you that you have no idea? The work I do with women and artists and transformative leaders is to help them listen to and reclaim or reconnect to their voice, their inner voice. Realign it to that mission vision they have for themselves and their life. And then align it with what matters most. I'm not sure I have more to say today except to leave you with that question. What does it mean to live your life fully? Where are you and where are you not? And that phrase, the only real battle in life is between hanging on and letting go. And what would happen if you released the things that you feel obligated to do and made choices to live life fully for yourself? If this is something that you would like to explore more of, I encourage you to check out my website. It's my name, cindythompson.net. You can find that in the show notes. I do have a couple of introductory type workshops that I'm doing virtually in the coming month on centering and focusing, which is that first step to tuning into ourselves, to becoming present, so that we can actually begin to consider that question. What does it mean to live my life fully? I hope you have a blessed day, a wonderful week. I will have a guest with me next week on mindset and shifting of beliefs to lean into creating the life that you are most passionate about living, which is the name of my business, because I believe that we all can live the life that we are passionate about living. Thank you for tuning in. If you like, please like and share, and I look forward to seeing you next time.